point about this is we've already talked about this. We've talked about bringing in mindfulness into movement, engaging the cerebellum cortex loop, training physical balance as a way of training cognitive balance, the ability to integrate complex interactions between simultaneously changing variables. And that's like, what does that mean? Well, you're doing it when you're moving, and you're going to see. So I'm going to do it a couple of ways. And the point about this is a very, and this is the correct way of using this term. This is a very ritualized way of walking. It's taken from Tai Chi. So that we're going to have basically a couple lessons. I'm going to teach you today. I'll do a significant review on Thursday, add in sort of a more mental component. And then Friday, we'll actually add in arm movements. And you'll be doing what's called brush knees. Okay. But as I said, this is a very ritualized way of moving because it's designed to put you into the flow state, get that demand on your attention and awareness, give you right concentration, soft vigilance throughout your body. You want to get an awareness throughout the whole of your body and then through the whole of your body into the whole of the world. And then you're going to bring in, of course, more of the Vipassana elements, and we'll talk about that on Thursday. So let's start, and I'm going to be side on. And what you want to do is here's your right foot. I hope you can see my right foot. So if this is my baseline and this is 90, okay, so this is my baseline and this is a perpendicular of 90, I want my right foot at 45 degrees. I want my right foot at 45 degrees, okay? And then I step with my left foot. Now, the way I just get something out of the way here. The way you step, right, is you're always going to step heel to toe. So don't go toe to heel because that actually does this. Okay, so you're gonna this is called tiger paw. It's like you're like a tiger, right? So you're gonna heel to toe. How far do you step? You always step as far as you want these characteristics to be the case. That my back foot never comes off. Like when I'm moving forward, I never come off my back foot. Like I don't go that far forward, and I'm not leaning. I want my head over the center of my chest and all of that over the center of my pelvis. I don't want to be doing this and I don't want to be doing this. I want to be, and this is not going to come as any surprise to you, I want to be centered and rooted throughout. Centered and rooted throughout. So how wide do I step? I step hip width. This is too wide. This is too wide. Okay? This is too narrow. You don't want to be doing this walk like on a tightrope. You want it about hip width apart between the heels of your feet. Okay, so what we do, we turn our right foot 45 degrees. We step the first foot out. Notice how my foot is going, my toes are straight forward on that 90 degree. I make sure that my knee is going over the center of my foot. This is wrong. This is wrong. And I don't go past my toes. This is wrong. Center of my foot to about here on my foot. Okay? And see how I'm sunk? Okay, so let's do that again together. Right foot, 45 degrees, I step. I move my weight forward. So about 80% on my, 70 to 80% on my front. So I feel my weight coming into my front leg. You're going to be able to pick up on that. I feel rooted and I feel centered. Then my weight goes back. And as my weight goes back, I come up onto my heel. So when I'm going backwards, right, I come up onto my heel. Now here's the tricky part. I'm going to turn my left foot 45 degrees by turning my hips. Not my ankle, my hips 45 degrees. Do you see that? I'm putting my hands here. You don't have to do this. I'm just doing this so you can see what my hips are doing. I turn 45 degrees. Now, when I start to put my weight down and I start to send my weight in that direction. And as I do, I make sure my knee is aligned over the center of my foot. I align my knee. And my weight starts to come on to my left foot. Don't worry, I'm going to review all of this with you again. Now, here is what is the special challenge here. I'm going to turn all of my weight onto my left foot. And that, I'm going to turn my right hip, put all of my weight onto my left foot, and it's going to bring my right foot up like this, onto my heel, with no weight on it. See that? No weight. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly do tiger grasping with my right foot, And my hips are going to slowly turn from the 45 back to the 90 as my weight comes forward. Okay, let's do that whole sequence. I'll talk you through it again. Okay, so first of all, sink a bit, right foot. Feet about hip width apart, toes forward, knee aligned, centered and rooted. I come forward, about 80%. Back, about 80%. See how my left foot has come up. Pivot 45 by turning the hips. Align the knee. Align the knee. I'm going to send my weight onto this leg, and I'm going to see what's happening. My hip is coming, my right hip is coming up, and that's what brings my right heel up. No weight on here. No weight at all when I make contact. Hip width. Now I straighten my hips as I go forward. Okay, let's do that again, and then we'll do the next, right? And then I'm going to turn. I'll do one more for the side, and maybe I'll do this first. Let's do one right now from the front, so you can see what this looks like from the front, the first step, okay? So I'm going to step, I turn, I step. You see here, distance, foot straight, see how my hips are. I go back, right? I turn, align the knee, and then I'm going to turn all of my weight onto this foot to bring this foot up. No weight. And then I straighten my hips slowly. It takes me the whole time my weight goes forward to straighten my hips. You're going, this is hard. Yep, that's the point. This is a very disciplined, flow-inducing, concentration-demanding, soft vigilance affording way of walking. But it gets movement and mindfulness deeply wedded together. It really gets you to enact in movement you're being centered and rooted. Okay, so right foot, 45 degrees, step, back, pivot, align the knee, step, hips coming forward. Now, we're going to do the same thing on the other side. I've gone forward, so I go back. Right? Try not to cock your hips as you go back. I go back, and I'm going to pivot my hips 45 degrees to the right. Align my knee, and I'm going to turn my weight onto my right leg to bring my left heel up. And then the same thing, all the way back. Okay, let's do that again. We'll do those two. And then we're going to, learn how to turn. Okay. 45 degrees. Step. See how both my knees bent? When I go forward, I do not, look at my right leg, please. I do not lock it like this. It stays bent. Back. Turn from the hips, align the knee, turn all the way onto the left. Right foot comes up, back. Bringing your hips back to center. Then shift your weight back, turn, align, step, come forward. Okay, now I don't have the camera space, but you want to do, you want to do 3 of these. Because you want to end the direction you're going in. Oh, you can do 3 or any multiple of 3, right? 3 or 6 or 9. Because when you want to turn, you want to have it so that your last step was your right foot was forward. Okay? So this is your left foot forward, right foot forward. Okay, so this is how we're going to turn. I'm going to bring my weight back, just like I was going to do another walk, but instead of pivoting out to the right, I pivot inward to the left, like this. And as I do, I shift my weight from my left hip to my right hip. I have to pivot this as much as I possibly can. See how far I'm pivoting it? Okay? I shift my weight onto this hip, I bring this foot up and over, and I step. And as I step, I push this heel back a bit, and I get my alignment again. Okay, I'm going to do that 2 more times. because the turning, once you can turn, of course, you can, then what you do is you just go 3 or 6 or whatever this way, and then 3 that way, and then 3 this way, and 3 that way. And it's very demanding, as you can no doubt imagine. Okay, so right here again, let's do the turn. And here, I send my weight back, but instead of pivoting out like I do when I'm going forward, I'm going to pivot, right? I'm going to pivot the other way. I'm going to pivot to my left with my right foot. I pivot. Notice how I haven't put my weight down because I'm going to shift my weight from left to right and then pivot even more on this heel. Then this foot comes up and over. I push this heel back a bit, and I come forward into my forward. And now I can just, I've done my first step here. I go back, I turn, and go. Okay, so I'm going to do the walk. You won't be able to see my feet on the turn here, but we're going to do 3 steps, and then I'll turn and come back, okay? And then we'll talk about the breathing. Okay, foot to the right, step with the left. Okay, sorry. I know that you'll want to look at your feet initially, but as you have to stop looking at your feet as soon as you possibly can and feel it introspectively rather than looking at your feet, okay? Because this throws your balance off, and it's actually detrimental to what you want to be doing. So as soon as you can, try to feel it rather than see it happening. So foot to the right, 45 degrees, step, back, pivot, align, turn, forward, back. Okay, so I'm over here. I know you can't see my feet, but I do that thing where I come back. Now I pivot this way. I pivot even more as I shift my weight. I come up and over, and I'm here, and then I'm back, and then I'm going to do it to this direction. Centered and rooted throughout. Okay, one more thing. Let's add in the breathing. So the rule is whenever you're going forward, you are exhaling. And whenever you're moving backwards or drawing yourself in, you're inhaling. So inhale, exhale. I'll try to do it loudly so you can hear. Inhale, and then exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. So you want to try and get the baby breathing from the past the meditation into the walking. You don't want to be forcing your breathing. You want to be naturally flowing. And so you want your breath to be the metronome that moves you through the walking. Big inhale, exhale. Big inhale, exhale. Don't worry about your arms right now. By the end of the week, you'll have something to do with them. I promise you. Okay? So that's the beginning of walking. We'll review all of this on Thursday. We'll add in a little bit more of the mental component, and then on Friday, you'll be adding in arms. Don't do this now, but you'll actually be doing arm movement with this. Okay. All right, I'm just going to get my mat and my pillow, and we'll do a sit, and then we'll do some Q&A. We're going to probably run a little bit long today, but I forewarned you that would be the case when we do the walking meditation. Sorry, I'm a little bit back, but hopefully this doesn't look too odd for you. So we will we'll set the timer. Please get yourself into your basic posture. You'll find that chanting now, which we're going to do, is very conducive. Set your phones on Do Not Disturb, and we'll begin when I say begin. So let's begin again. So I'm standing side on, and I'm going to turn my right foot. So again, here's my line. Perpendicular is 90, and turn my right foot 45 degrees, and I step, and I'm keeping the distance between my heels this way. I'm keeping it hip width, and I'm stepping as far as I could without having to lean or without lifting my back heel. See my right heel back there, without lifting that off the floor. And I'm keeping a bend in both of my knees, and I'm getting about 70% of my weight onto my front leg and 30% onto the back. So, and then as I step, I exhale. And I inhale and come back. My foot comes up and I turn 45 degrees from my hips. Okay? So inhale. And then I'm going to, as I exhale, I'm going to push my weight this way. And I'm going to align my knee. So it's over the center of my foot, but not past my toes. And I exhale. Okay, then I'm going to inhale. Okay? And I'm going to turn my hips I'm going to turn my hips from here 45 to the right, and by turning my hip, it brings my right leg up. Sorry, I'm turning 45 degrees to the left. My mistake, I apologize. And I'm turning 45 degrees to my left, and that is I'm turning my hips 45 degrees, and that is bringing up my right heel. Again, I'm keeping this hip distance. Again, same length as my previous step. And then I exhale, and I'm going to straighten my hips the whole time it takes me to move forward, keeping a bend in this leg and a bend in this leg. Okay, so let's do those two things together in a sequence. So we begin. 45 foot, I inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Now I go back, inhale, and I turn this foot out 45 degrees. Exhale. Inhale, exhale. Okay, let's do that again, and then we'll review the turning. So, I think I'm just maybe a little bit more over, yeah. So, 45 degrees, inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, turning my hips. You see my hips? Exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Okay? So one more time. You're just watching my hips now. See what they're doing? They've turned here, and then they turn even more. I think it's actually, yeah. So here, and then even more. A little bit past 45 degrees, in fact, as you're bringing the back foot up. Remember, see how my foot is landing? So when my foot lands, heel to toe as my weight comes forward. Like so, for example, if it's here, heel to toe. Okay, so now we're going to talk about how we turn. So first of all, I'll show you straight on how we turn. So I just want to keep on my mark. Sorry, I have to keep checking. Make sure you're not losing my feet. All right, so I want to end with this foot forward, my right foot. Okay. And then I pull this back and I pivot, and see how my weight is all back. I'll also do this side on. My weight comes back. I pivot, but I don't put that foot down. It's not actually touching the floor yet. Okay, and then I pivot even more as I shift my weight from my left to my right, and then I bring this foot up and over, and I go forward. Okay. So what does that look like side on? Okay. You can now, I showed you one way last time, and I said only do it with one foot, and I'm showing you both ways now. If this foot is forward, my left foot is forward, I come back, and I pivot, and then up and over. Okay. So let's just do the turning. Here, 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 and back, pivot, here, back, pivot, here, back, pivot, stop. Okay, now let's put the walking and the turnings together. So exhale. This way I'm going to turn this way because I'm running out of space. So back, pivot, up and over. Again. I'm going to pivot this way because I'm running out of space. So always inhale, right? As you're drawing in, always exhale as you be expressing force, going forward. So here I'm inhale, although I'm bringing this leg up because no weight's going forward, I'm actually drawing everything into my right hip, so that's why I'm inhaling. And then exhaling, like you put force into that. Okay, so that's the foot movement. That's the breathing. What are you doing with your mind? Well, you are trying to make the sensations in your dantian, right? As if you were doing vipassana. You're here, you're following your breath because the movements are timed to your breath. And you're also, right? I'm also aware, I'm meditating on, you already know how to do this, but I'm not only meditating on my breath here, I'm meditating on the centeredness and rootedness. I'm really making them focal in my walking meditation so that while I'm moving, I'm trying to keep that sense of being centered and rooted. So I'm focusing obviously on the walking itself. I'm focusing on my breath because the breath is timed with the steps. And my meditative focus is also on my center and on my root. Now that's a lot more than normal. I get that, and that's the point. But those four will be very soon very integrated together because when you're moving in this fashion, right? When you're moving in this fashion, being centered and rooted is natural to it. And so you're feeling the center and the root, that contact all the way down, the centeredness, and then you're breathing. And I'm feeling the center and the root throughout, and I'm following my breath because the breath is timed with the movement. Okay, everyone, I will review all of this again tomorrow. So we're doing part 3 of the walking meditation. I'll just do a quick review of the basics, and then today I'm going to put time into reviewing, especially the turning. So we start. Right foot goes 45 degrees, hip width, we step, 70% of our weight forward, knee over the center of our foot, not past our toes. We're not leaning back, we're keeping a bend in both knees. Weight goes forward, we exhale, weight goes up on my hands here so you can see my hips, go back, pivot 45, align the knee, turn even more, no weight on my right foot, bring my right foot up and then turn my hips as they come forward, and then back, turn out 45 degrees, align the knee, turn, and then come forward. Okay, so, and as remember, we're exhaling as like here, inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, exhaling. We're meditating on the flow of the breath because it is the metronome for the walking meditation, but we're also meditating on maintaining an active presence of being centered and rooted. Okay, so the turning. I'll do it both directions. So let's say we're here. Okay, so if you see my foot, so my weight, I'm going to bring my weight back and I'm going to come up. So whenever I'm going forward, remember, it's tiger paw, heel to toe. As my weight goes down, I go heel to toe. So I go back, I come up onto the heel, I pivot as far as I can. My weight is still all on my back leg. I don't put this foot down because I can pivot it more if I shift my weight. See, as I'm shifting my weight, I can pivot it even more. So as I shift my weight from my back to my front leg, I can pivot even more. Then I shift my weight onto this leg, and I bring this leg up and over, get that hip width, and now back. Now back. What does it look like on this side? So I'm here, right? My weight goes back, and I pivot as much as I can. You can draw your weight. See how the weight and the foot are turning as much as I can, but I don't put that foot down. Because as I shift my weight from my back leg to my front leg, I can pivot even more. I can let my front foot begin to pivot to take the strain off this hip, and then it comes up and over and back. Okay, so back, pivoting, then shifting and pivoting more, up and over. And you can push this heel back a little bit to get the proper alignment if you need to. The back heel. So back and drawing and shifting and turning even more, up and over here. Back, foot comes up, I pivot it, don't put the foot down. I'm drawing all the way to this side, then pivoting even more as I shift my weight, and then up and over. So again, back, okay, back, shift. Like I said, let this foot slide a bit if you need to. Don't put too much pressure on your knee or your hip. And then up and over. See how I actually lift it off the ground, get it into position, and then forward. And push this heel back a little bit if I need to, so I get it back to the 45 degrees. Okay, I'll do it 2 more times on each side, and then we will move to the seated practice. Back, pivoting, over, back, pivoting, over. Okay, I hope that's a helpful review. And eventually we're going to add in the arms, and I'll show you what that looks like. Not because I expect you to practice it, because just get the footwork down is really important. So how we actually start in the practice is we start with this foot at the 45 degrees to the right, and just on the ball of the foot behind the toes here. And we turn to our right. This hand comes in front. This hand comes up and forward like this. Back, align, shift, back, right, align here, and then a turn here. Okay, it's called brush knees. And when you add in the arms, this becomes a fully embodied, very engaging, very absorbing form of mindful movement. And so next week, we'll work towards adding the arms in, and then you'll have a very significant moving practice that you can do. And then you will always do the moving practice first, then come into the standing qigong, then go into the seated qigong, do the chanting, and then go into the silent sit. Okay, let's review the walking meditation a bit, and then we're going to add in the arms, and then you'll actually be doing what's a pretty central move from very many Tai Chi forms, which is called brush knee. Okay, so do a couple ways. Standing here, remember the right foot goes 45. So exhaling, coming forward. This is quick review. Inhaling, coming back. You don't have to do this with your hands. I'm just showing you what's happening with my hips. I pivot from my hip, align the knee, start to put the weight on, turn all the way, bring this up. I keep the hip distance between, not like this, hip distance between my legs, straighten my hips as I go forward. When I want to turn, I shift the weight, lift the foot, pivot as much as I can, don't put the weight down, then shift the weight from what was the back foot to what was the front foot, and then pivot even more, and then lift this foot up and over, forward, back, align, turn, Remember, whenever we're going forward, exhaling. Whenever we're coming back, inhaling. What does that look like? Front on. Just to give you a sense. 45. Back. Remember, don't lean forward. Head cradled in the pelvis, in the center of the pelvis. Center this way, center this way. Right? Okay? What does that look like? Side up, back on. All right, I'm like this. 45, foot, back, turn, touch. Okay? All right, now let's add in the arms. Now, you don't have to add in the arms, first of all. If you're finding the walking is very challenging, because what you're trying to remember, what you're doing is you're obviously meditating on doing the act. That's why it's challenging. It's designed to enhance your chances of getting into the flow state. It's also designed to help really trigger the cerebellum and the cortex loop. And you're meditating on being centered and rooted and flowing throughout. And if that's enough, that's enough. But adding in the arms makes it even more embodied, more comprehensive. You get an even greater sense of being at one with yourself. It makes it more challenging. So let me do side on first to show you how we start with arms. So we feet are, wuji. I hip width apart. I turn this 45. Okay. So what we want to do is we're going to start with our hands, right? Like this part, the ball of right here behind your toes, right here. And what you're gonna do is that way you can pivot on it. So just like you're gonna walk, this foot goes 45, but instead of stepping, put this foot like this. Okay? Then what you're gonna do is you're gonna turn my hips to the right. My right hand comes up so that my fingertip, right, of my middle finger is in front of my nose tip like this. So that's what's happening there. And I'm trying to always move as one. I don't move and then my hand and my movement at the same time. I feel like my hips are turning a crank that makes my hand go into place. What's this hand doing? Okay, this hand, as I pivot, this hand is coming in front. See how it's turning and it's bent, it's not locked. It's protecting me here, protecting my liver, and it's protecting my heart. This is called a full body block, right? And it's curved. And you see how I'm not lifting my shoulder up? It's curved. So this one is doing this. This one is doing this. So this is rotating up. This is rotating down. Then I step like I do in the Tai Chi walking, right? And I'm going to straighten my hips and come forward. And as I do, this turns my hands. And see how this hand is starting to turn? Okay, let's do the upper hand first. Forget the lower hand. The upper hand. Now don't come this way. Don't come on the diagonal. Spiral in. I'll do this side on too. I come in and then down the center. See how my palm, which is originally facing me, is rotating the whole time I'm doing that. Okay? So don't do the diagonal. That is wrong. It's like you're doing a J. You're starting at the bottom of the J and going to the top. Okay, what's the lower hand doing? And this is where the name of the move comes from. It's brushing past the knee. Do you see that? As my hips turn, it brushes past the knee, and then as my weight settles, it comes beside as if there's a plank coming right out of my leg, and I'm slapping that plank like that. Not locked, not locked. This is wrong. This is right. Living joints, not deadlocked ones. Okay, so let's put that together. And then I'll do it side on. Okay, so I got my hands, turn, brushing the knee, doing that J with the upper hand. Okay, what does this look like side on? Okay, right foot goes 45, left foot, as I said, rotating down, rotating up, all at once. Everything starts and stops at the same time. Step, brushing the knee with the lower hand, doing the J with the upper hand. Okay, let's do that again. Okay, now in Tai Chi walking, right, meditative walking, you would bring your weight back and your toe would come up because you're going to pivot. Okay, so I've done this. As my weight comes back, my hands come in like this. You see? They're coming in, almost like that. Okay? And then when I pivot, and I align the knee. All of these are now aligned. This hand, knee, toe. Everything's aligned. Okay, now here's the very difficult part. Remember how in meditative walking, you turn all your weight onto this hip and bring this foot up? Remember this? When I do this, I switch my hands. This rotates in and this rotates down. Okay? So I'm like this, right? Let's get there again. Here, back, align the three, switch. Here, back, align the three, switch. Here, back, align the three, switch. And then you do the brush knee on this side. Right? This is the reverse J here. Well, this is a normal J, but bottom to top. Here, this is like the reverse J on this side. Right? I guess it's more like a loopy L. Maybe that's a better way. This is a J, and this is an L. Right? And then this is brushing the knee. Okay, let's put the two together. So turn the foot on, right foot 45, left foot comes up so you can pivot here. Pivot, step, brush the knee. This is the looping L. Back, align, switch, brush the knee. And now you can repeat. Back, align, switch. Okay? Let's try this again. Again, reminder, don't add in the arms if you don't want to. But if you can do the full-blown brush knee, it becomes a very, very powerful movement practice. Okay? Okay, so back, align, switch. Now let's say I want to turn around. Okay, so remember what we do with the foot movement. Just a reminder, this is the foot movement. You see how my feet are going to do it like the brush knee footwork. Okay, let's do it this way. That way I'll face the camera better. Okay, so what I'm going to do, right, is I'm just going to come up. It's like I'm pulling here, right? Okay, so okay. I'm trying to think of what way I want to do it that's easiest for you guys to see. Maybe this is better. Yeah, that's best, I think, for seeing. Yeah. Okay, so I've done the brush knee here. Then I'm going to pull, as I do that, this part, remember, this arm is pulling down, and this one is drilling up in front of my face. So like this. This is actually called carry tiger to mountain. Okay. So I'm wrapping this up, and see what's happening. My inside, what's called the knife edge of my hand, is spiraling in towards my nose. Okay. This one is spiraling underneath my elbow. Now that part where I shift my weight, remember, and turn this even more, I drill this down. Then I lift this up and over, and then I do the J, and this hand here, brush the knee. This J's in, this brushes the knee, and I do a brush knee. Okay, let's do that again. So forward like this, drawing this in, drawing this in. As I shift the weight, drilling this down, step, brush knee. Of course, I can do this way as well. Okay? Here, rotate, drill down, lift up and over, brush knee. And then what would happen? I'd go back, align, switch, brush knee. Okay, so let's review some of the key pointers. This foot goes 45. Right, this one's on the ball just behind my toes, so I can pivot on it, drilling down, full body block, drilling up, right? This right in front of my nose. Step. This is like a reverse L, not the diagonal, but in like this, into your center and down, brushing the knee, hitting the plank. Bend, bend, not this. Bend, bend. Okay, back, right? Align, switch. Brush knee. Coming up as I shift the weight. Okay. Drilling down, stepping, brush knee. Brush knee. Same principles. We're breathing. Whenever you're moving back, inhaling, ever pushing forward, you're exhaling. Okay? I'll review this again on Friday, and then you guys can ask me some questions around next week. But you'll find that once you're doing the full-blown brush knee, it's a very challenging, very demanding, but also very rewarding moving mindfulness practice. Okay, so again, when I'm doing this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my, as always, like when I start the walking, I turn my right foot 45 degrees. Here's my line. Here's 90, 45 degrees. But when I'm going to add in the arms, I step onto this part of my left foot, right behind the toes, and I have a bend in my knee, right? And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn my hips 45, and as I do, I'll do side on so you can see this best. What happens is this arm turns. Notice I don't straighten it. I keep it bent, right? It's this pung again, that sort of almost like your arms are filled with water flowing through them. They're flexible, but they're not limp, and they're not locked. Okay, so pung. And so when I'm turning this part, the hard part of my arm and the knife edge of my hand out, I'm protecting here, my liver, my lungs, and my heart. So there's a full body block. That's what my left hand is doing. My right hand is coming up. It's spiraling up, so it's palm towards me with this finger, the middle finger, just above the tip of my nose, but in line with the tip of my nose. So that looks like this. So notice how I'm turning my hips. Okay, so once I do this, then I start the Tai Chi walking, right? The meditative walking. Right? Remember, heel to toe. And as my heel goes down, remember, I'm straightening my hips. And what that straightening of my hips does is it moves this hand past my knee. It's called brush knee. And when I finish the move, my hand comes beside my thigh here, and as if I'm touching a board like this. This hand is like a curved L, so it doesn't go on the diagonal. It doesn't go like this. It spirals into the center, that nose to navel line. Right? It spirals into the center and then down. And notice how I keep a deep bend in my arm. I am not. This is very mistaken. This is what I'm doing. Okay, so what does that look like? I'm turning, stepping, straightening the hips, brushing the knee, spiraling down the center, coming in. Okay, so remember in Tai Chi walking, meditative walking, I send my weight back and I come up onto my left heel. As I do that, my palms rotate in. And then as I turn, right, remember I do this. I align everything. My knee, remember aligning the knee? See my left knee coming into place? My hands are aligned like this, okay? Keep this hand, like when I say aligned, I don't mean directly below it. I'll slightly ahead of it. So slightly this way, okay? So like this. And then now this is the difficult part. I'm going to try and do it as slowly as possible. Remember what I do is I do this with my weight. I bring my weight, I turn all of my weight onto my left leg, no weight going into my right heel, and that brings up my right foot. Now, as I'm doing that, these hands are switching. So that this is now like this, and then this is the full body block here. Okay, so like this, right? I'm aligned, I turn. Okay? I'm aligned, I turn. Okay? I'm aligned, I turn. And then I brush the knee on this side. I brush the knee on this side. I brush the knee on this side. Okay, so let's say I brush my knee now. Hence the name of the move, brush knees. Okay, so I think, like I said, I'll do it first this way. So I got the full camera. I want to turn. I've done a brush knee, and I want to turn. So let's just do the footwork again. Up, pivot, no weight yet. Shift weight from here to here. Pivot more. Let this foot slide a bit. Let the right foot slide a bit. And then up and over. Okay? So, but I'm doing the first part of the weight shift with the footwork. I'm spiraling this down, and I'm spiraling this up. What I'm doing is I'm actually storing energy in the elasticity of my tissues. Right? So when the martial arts, you're learning to coordinate not just the large piston muscles, you're learning to coordinate all the small, that's why you're doing all the spiraling. First of all, you're coordinating all the control muscles and it's like a laser. Ambient light, the light bounces off in all directions. In a laser, it's reflected, right, so that it all becomes coherent and it moves in a unified pattern. And so I'm trying to get all of the muscles to have that coherence to them. That's part of what chi is. And then also I'm storing energy in the elasticity of the tissues. So it's not just so like if I'm striking someone, right? When I strike, it's not just piston muscles. It's also the small control muscles, and it's also the elasticity of the tissue, and it's the weight shift, and I'm getting everything coherent into one strike, okay? Hopefully you'll never use this for fighting, but the idea is you understand the function, it helps you to do the form correctly. Okay, so I'm like this, I rotate, and then now I shift from, right, this leg to this leg. I start to unwrap my hands over, and now you see I'm ready. I'm ready for a brush knee. What would that look like on this side? Same thing, wrapping, starting to unwrap, over, brush knee. Wrapping, getting into place. See this? Starting to unwrap right here, over, brush knee. Okay, I think this is better right here. Right, wrapping, and then start to unwrap, and that gets this hand down into place, the lower hand. This is now right in front of my nose, ready to go, and boom. So remember, whenever so inhale, because I'm getting everything ready, I'm drawing everything in. This is the in part, and then yang, exhale. And then in, right? And then exhale, then in, and then exhale. So you're meditating on the flow of your breath, you're meditating on your center, your root, obviously your flow, and now the final part, right? The final part is this, and this is a word that should not be translated because whenever it's mistranslated, it gives people all kinds of crazy metaphysical ideas. But this is the key, the chi or the ki. Chi is Chinese, ki is Japanese. It's that sense of laser-like coherence, but it's simultaneously an awareness of, like, it's an intelligent, flowing, living coherence. That's sort of the musicality of your own perspectival and participatory awareness of your body in movement. So I hope that's helpful.